before we do anything, there are formulas you need to know. Okay? Area of a circle is what? Pi r squared. What is circumference of a circle? 2 pi r. What about arc length? M over 360 times 2 pi r. And then sector area? M over 360 times pi r squared. So a lot of you should probably be writing those 4 formulas down. You need them memorized. I think that's all we need right now. Okay. I may or may not give you the formulas. I haven't decided, but those are 4 you should know, especially area and circumference. Okay. So number 1, what is the length of the radius? So I'm solving for radius in a circle with a circumference of 5 pi inches. So my circumference formula is 2 pi r. My circumference is 5 pi, and I want to know what r is. To get r by itself, what would I do? Divide by 2 pi. Those cancel. The pi's cancel. R equals 2.5. That's all you needed to do. Now, some of you gave me an answer of 2.5, but part of the directions yesterday was everybody needs to have all of the work and all of the answers. If you just gave me the answer and I graded your problem, you got a 0. You should have followed directions. That is a huge part of just being a responsible student, is following directions. So tomorrow, when you take this test, because remember, if you do better, I will fix this grade. Okay? Number 2, a circle has an area of 100 pi square miles. What is the circumference of the circle? So I know the area is 100 pi, and my formula is pi r squared. I need to know what r is in order to find the circumference. So I'm going to divide by pi. 100 equals r squared. And when I take the square root of both sides, I get r equals 10. But I need the circumference. So circumference equals 2 times pi times r, or 20 pi miles. Another note that I want to make to you is that some of you are in groups where someone else did all the work and you just copied, and hopefully your group was smart and knew what they were doing and you got a good grade. But if that was you yesterday, where you didn't know what was going on, you have some studying to do, because you have to do this by yourself tomorrow. You cannot rely on your group tomorrow. Okay, so just be aware of that. Number 3, I got a lot of questions about number 3, and I'm not sure why. So I don't know if it was because of the way it was worded. So a circle with center X has a radius of 6 meters. What is the circumference of circle X? So when it talks about circle X, it's just talking about that circle. Some people didn't know if it meant like this part, like this arc. I had a lot of questions. So circle X is just that circle in general. Circumference is 2 times pi times the radius. So it should have been 12 pi meters for circumference. What is the length of arc ZY? So what formula am I using for the length of the arc? Arc length. So my measure is 85. Remember, this central angle and this measure out here are the same. So 85 over 360 times 2 times pi times r. And you already know what 2 times pi times r is. It's 12 pi. Right? Everything's going to be related. When you plug that into your calculator, you get 2.8 pi meters. This is the work that I expect to see. Because there is little work and most of it's done with your calculator, you should be able to write down the formula and plug it in. If you just give me an answer, it looks like you copied it off of somebody. So give me more than that. Okay. Number 5, what is the area of the circle? So area equals pi times the radius squared, or 36 pi meters squared. Number 6, what is the area of the sector? So sector area, my measure is 85 over 360 times pi times the radius squared. And when you plug that into your calculator, you get 8.5 pi meters squared. Any questions on 1 through 6? Okay. All right. Number 7. What I noticed when we were doing this is people skipped a lot of steps. So there's 2 parts to this. The first part is we need to figure out how many minutes passed between 7:35 and 7:54. What's the difference in minutes? 19 minutes. Remember, it's 19 over 60 because there's 60 minutes in an hour, and we need to convert that to an angle measure. So times 360. So 19 divided by 60 times 360 gives you 114. From here, do we use arc length or sector area? What are we trying to find? We're trying to find the length of the arc. So arc length. 114 over 360 times 2 times pi times my radius, which is 7. When I plug that in, I get 4.4 pi inches. 4.4 pi inches. A lot of you, and it wasn't necessarily this problem, forgot your pi in a lot of the problems. Okay, so because we're not multiplying it through, you need to make sure that you still attach it. Questions on that one? Okay, so let's look at circumference and area for number 8. Circumference. Which formula? We just wrote down 2 pi r. Oh, why is it frozen? Hold on. Pause. So we wrote down 2 pi r. What else could we have used? D times pi, right? So we can use just the diameter if we'd like, giving us 12 pi centimeters. If you use 2 pi r, you would have to divide that by 2. So 2 pi times 6, which still gives you 12 pi. So whatever formula you choose to use is fine. This one, when you're given the diameter, takes an extra step. Okay. Area, pi times the radius. So I still need to know the radius squared is 36 pi centimeters squared. A lot of people are forgetting their units. Squared for area. Number 9. Area. I'm going to do area first. Pi times my radius squared. Now when you square 5.5, you get 30.25. We're rounding to the nearest tenth. 30.25 rounded to the nearest tenth. 30.3. So 30.3 pi meters squared. Circumference, 2 times pi times my radius, which is 11 pi meters. Any questions on 7 through 9? Are you seeing where you made your mistakes if you made mistakes? Okay. Any questions? All right, let's flip to the back. Okay, here we go. Sector area and arc length. A lot of questions came up, especially, and I'll get to it when we look at 11, or 12, excuse me. But the highlighted part is the sector area you're looking for. Okay, so how all of this is darker, this is the area you're looking for. And I explained that yesterday, but just another FYI, because that's what it'll look like tomorrow on your test. Arc length. M, so 90 over 360 times 2 times pi times the radius. When you plug that in, you end up with 1.5 pi miles. Sector area, 90 over 360 times pi times the radius squared. Did I hear a weight? No? Okay, I'm hearing things. When this one gets plugged in, you end up with 2.3 pi miles squared. Jaden, what's wrong? What's wrong?
I was just saying because like we got the same answer, but we said that like 90 over 260 times 6.
Oh, that's fine. 6 pi. Yeah, that's fine. You just multiply this out prior. So I'm trying to give you guys each of the steps and not condense anything right away so that you know exactly where all the numbers are coming from. Okay? All right, number 11. You should have 60 over 360 times 2 times pi times 6, leaving you with 2 pi meters for your answer. And then 60 over 360 times pi times the radius squared gives you 6 pi meters squared. Again, as you go through these, make sure you double check what you're plugging into your calculator since there is little work and it's just the formula. Last one before we get to our review problems. So 300 over 360 times 2 times pi times my radius gives me 8.3 pi kilometers. And 300 over 360 times pi times the radius squared is 20.8 pi kilometers squared. Any questions through number 12? Again, are we seeing where we made our mistakes? And you didn't make mistakes? Okay. All right, our review problems. I can't remember what class it was, but someone yesterday said they can't do square root problems. We need to know how to find and simplify square roots. Okay? So, what is the first thing you should look for when you're taking a square root? If it's a perfect square. So, in your calculator, plug in the square root of 132 and you end up getting a decimal. From there, factor tree. What two numbers multiply to 132? 4 and what? 3. Okay, so 4 and 33. Can I use 2 and 66? Yes. You have a couple options. So we're going with 4 and 33 here. I can break down 4 to 2 and 2, and I can break down 33 to 3 and 11. Right? Circle your pairs. Remember, your pair is like a couple. It gets to leave the house and go on a date. And they go on a single date. These two people who don't have a couple stay at home. That's okay. So you should have 2 square root of 33 as your final answer. Square root of 225. 15. Once you take the square root and it's a perfect square, your square root goes away. It's just the whole number. I think there was only one group who gave me an answer of the square root of 15. That's not right. Okay, so once you take the square root is gone. You don't keep doubling and taking square roots again. So if it's a perfect square, it's just that number. Okay? All right. 15 and 16. 15 and 16 were a hot mess for some people. Okay. These will be on your test tomorrow. Huh? Probably just 2. Okay. So we're going to go through it. And since they were a hot mess, we should really pay attention. Okay. First things first. Plot your points. Okay. So -1, 3 is A. 6, 3 is B. And -1, -4 is C. That is step 1. Okay? So some of you need to write down these steps. Step 1 is to plot the points. Step 2 is to find the side lengths, whether you count or use the distance formula. What is the length of AB? 7. Okay. So the length of AB is 7. All you had to do was count the boxes. If you prefer the distance formula, you're going to get the same answer. What is the length of AC? 7. All you have to do is count the boxes. Good morning. So we have AB, we have AC. What else do we need? BC. And BC is at a diagonal, so you have to use the distance formula. Okay? So I'm taking B and C, and I'm plugging it into the distance formula. -1 minus 6 squared plus -4 minus 3 squared. -1 minus 6 squared plus -4 minus 3 squared. -1 minus 6 is a -7 squared. -4 minus 3 is a -7 squared. So in your calculator, you're taking the square root of 49 plus 49, and you end up with 9.9. Okay, that is the length here. If you got those three, side lengths, that alone will give you 3 of the 5 points for this question. Okay? The 4th point comes from the perimeter. You find the perimeter by adding up all the sides. 7 plus 7 plus 9.9 is 23.9. We didn't focus on units in the last unit, so this one doesn't need units. Area of a triangle tends to be a problem. So most of us need to probably write down this formula I'm going to give you. Area of a triangle is 1/2 the base times the height. 1/2 the base times the height. Who can tell me what is important about the base and the height of a triangle? They form a 90-degree angle. My 90-degree angle is up here at point A, which means my base and my height are AC and AB. It doesn't really matter which one's which because you're multiplying them together, but it's these two side lengths. So area equals 1/2 of 7 times 7, which gives you 24.5. That one was not so much the issue one. It was number 16. Okay. Number 16. What's step 1? Plot the points. Graph it. So 0, 0 is E. 3, 3 is F. 7, -1 is G. And 4, -4 is H. So I've plotted my points. Can someone tell me what shape that is? A rectangle, which means opposite sides are equal to each other. So EF should equal HG, and FG should equal EH, which means you only have to do the distance formula twice. So let's do EF. The square root of 3 minus 0 squared plus 3 minus 0 squared is the square root of 9 plus 9. And the square root of 18 is 4.2. So this side is 4.2, this side is 4.2. Before I do the math, should FG and EH be longer or shorter than the other ones? Longer. It should be bigger than 4.2, right? If it's not, you probably did something wrong and you should go back and fix it. So let's find FG. Okay, FG, the square root of 7 minus 3 squared plus negative 1 minus 3 squared gives me 4 squared plus negative 4 squared, or 16 plus 16. And the square root of 32 is 5.7. Again, if you can get the side lengths, and we should be really good at distance formula, that's 4 of the 6 points. Perimeter at that point shouldn't be an issue because you're just adding up all the sides. And when you add up all the sides, you get 19.8. How do we find the area of a rectangle? Base times height, length times width. 4.2 times 5.7 gives you 23.9. Hopefully, on the problems that you specifically didn't know how to do, you wrote them down. Now, I saw some of you writing nothing. Just because your group got a good grade doesn't mean you are going to get a good grade, because you did it as a group. So hopefully you took note of the problems that were wrong or that you didn't do the work for or something like that. As always, the practice test looks identical to the test. The same type of questions are going to be on the test. The only difference is the numbers change. So if you can do this test, your test tomorrow shouldn't be an issue. If you can't do this test, you have some studying to do. You also could go to Math Lab today after school with Mr. Mansfield in J207, and he will purely be focusing on this test. So if you have a question, you don't know how to do something, you can go see him. If you can't make it to see him, I have recorded this, so it will be in Google Classroom, and you can rewatch what question you need to rewatch. Okay? But it is your responsibility to study and to be a good student.